Hi everyone, Jai Hind and welcome to the platform of StudyIQ IAS in English. My name is Bhavar Singh Surya, ex-India 115th course and qualified civil services in 2012, and I welcome you on the platform. In this video, we'll be talking about Ladakh and why is it angry again with the Delhi. Now, when it comes to Ladakh, recently there had been the 5 districts which had been carved out. At the same time, the Ladakh had been asking and demanding for the statehood as well as the inclusion into the 6th schedule of the Constitution of India. Now, when it comes to the birth of Ladakh as a union territory, it traces back to 2019. On 5th of August 2019, the Article 370 that provided with the special status to the Jammu and Kashmir, that was abrogated. And the Jammu Kashmirs were bifurcated into 2 of the union territories. That was Jammu Kashmir with the legislature and Ladakh without the legislature. Now, there was initial euphoria where the Leh's Buddhist majority celebrated, and it was basically because they got freedom from the Srinagar's dominance. However, there was the dawn of realization soon after because there was no local legislative voice that was there. At the same time, the lieutenant governor and the bureaucrats, they were the primary forces that were, or they are there, who are the major governing force when it comes to the Leh, as well as there was the fear of the land alienation and the demographic influx as well into the Ladakh. Now, therefore, there were the 4-point or the agenda that was set by the Ladakh, and that was inclusion into the statehood, that is given the statehood, status to the Ladakh, as well as the 6th schedule inclusion, and the local public service commission should be there for the Ladakh itself, and also about the 2 Lok Sabha seats that should be given to the Ladakh. And these were the 4-point agenda that was put forward by Ladakh. Now, over here, there is the consultation that happened between the Union Home Ministry as well as the Ladakh representatives even today itself. And that is, again, very, very important because when it comes to the clash, the core clash is about the administration as well as representation. When it comes to the Delhi wants the administrative decentralization where we have the new districts, 5 new districts which had been carved out in Ladakh, and these districts basically they are led by the IAS officers as well as the district collectors and the bureaucrats. Over here the focus is upon the service delivery as well as the roads, files which are closer to the citizens, and the nature of this model, the administrative model, is basically top-down approach from the center towards the the grassroots level. But at the same time, what the Ladakh is demanding, it is demanding that there should be a legislature that should be there, which should be the elected body, which should be led by the elected MLAs and the local ministers, and the focus is basically on the land protection as well as the the law making and the local budget as well. Now, this model is basically bottom-up and the democratic model that is there. Now, it is very important to note over here that when it comes to the districts, so more districts, it makes the offices accessible. But at the same time, when it comes to the power to make your own laws, so that is not provided by giving the more districts or, carving out more districts into the complete region. Now, over here, you can understand this in a layman term. Now, when you rent an apartment, all right, you have rented an apartment, so there is, what Ladakh wants is the ownership, that is, or at least minimum a secure long-term lease with the right to design the interior of Ladakh. That is what Ladakh is asking for. Now, what the Delhi is offering is that the landlord or the Delhi, it refuses the lease and instead it hires the 3 new watchmen and a house manager as well for the faster courier service, and that is what is happening between Ladakh and between Delhi right now. So over here it is that the new house manager is fine, but at the same time a person or the Ladakh, it still don't have the right to decide who sleeps in the living room, and you can evict the Ladakh anytime, and that is the fear that Ladakh has right now. So by this analogy of the rented apartment, you can understand that when it comes to the center's responses, alright, so center responses or Delhi, it have created the 5 new districts, and there are the new watchmen or managers that will be there. That is that there will be more of the IS officers, the bureaucrats that will be posted in these districts. At the same time, when it comes to Ladakh, so Ladakh is asking for the lease or the ownership, that is inclusion into the 6th schedule of the Constitution, or even granting the statehood. That is just equal to the lease or the ownership that it is demanding right now. Now, when it comes to Ladakh, you have to understand the complete governance structure that is there. When it comes to Ladakh, there is the home ministry or the Union Home Ministry, which has the central supervising authority in the Ladakh. Then there is district administration, where we have 7 districts which will be led by the district collectors. Then there is lieutenant governor as well, who executes the will of the center, or it is the one who is executing the center directives locally through these districts managers or the collectors that will be there. And then there is the Ladakh Hill councils which are there, the councils with the limited powers after the creation of the union territory. All right, these councils, they were even before, but at the same time, when it comes to right now, the status is that they had been devoid of the powers that were there initially. Now you can understand this, that there is the complete administrative pipe and the federal shield. When it comes to the administrative pipe, that is the method that the Delhi is using over here, where there is Delhi, then district, and then we have the citizen. So the power is flowing from one direction, that is top to down approach, and that is for the effective service delivery that the center says or the Union Home Ministry says. Then we have the federal shield as well, where the power is basically local, and it forms a protective ring, and this is what the Ladakh is asking about, that is inclusion into the 6th schedule or the statehood. Now over here, when it comes to the other states, they have the same, they have both the things. Like for example, when it comes to Himachal Pradesh, so Himachal Pradesh has the administrative pipeline as well, and it has the statehood or the federal shield as well, because it has the elected representatives which are there. Now when it comes to the 6th schedule, why Ladakh wants to be included into the 6th schedule, or what is the 6th schedule? When it comes to the 6th schedule, it is basically in the articles 244 clause 2 and 275 clause 1 that provides for the autonomous district councils in the 6th schedule states which are there, and the regional councils in the tribal areas as well. Now when it comes to the coverage, so current coverage is only for the 4 of the states, the northeastern states, that is Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram as well. Now when it comes to inclusion into the 6th schedule, it has to be noted that the NCST itself, that is National Commission for the Scheduled Tribe, it has recommended Ladakh's inclusion into the 6th schedule in 2019. Alright, and Ladakh qualifies to be included into the 6th schedule because when it comes to the population criteria or the population ratio that is here, there is over 90% of the population that belongs to the scheduled tribes, whether it is Balti, Beda, we have Bot tribe, as well as Changpa, Gara, Mon and Purigma tribes which actually lives over here. Now, what actually becomes, or why the 6th schedule is important for the Ladakh? Because there will be the autonomous district councils that will be formed. And now these autonomous district councils, they have basically the powers which are there, which are very important for protection of the tribal rights. Like for example, they have the legislative rights or the powers, that is that they have the laws, or they can make laws on land, forest, inheritance, marriage as well as social customs. There is also judicial power of these autonomous district councils, because there is the village courts which are established, which try the cases between the scheduled tribe members which are there. Also, there are the fiscal powers where these autonomous district councils, they can levy the taxes, they control the school curricula as well, and also they regulate the mining leases in the region. So that is why, or that is the major focus why Ladakh wants the inclusion into the 6th schedule, so that the tribal rights, they could be protected, the cultural rights, they could be protected as well. But the Delhi is objecting. Why the Delhi is objecting is because of the sparse population. It says that there is, when it comes to the area, it is quite large. That is, there is 86,000 kilometers square of the area that is there. And there is only 2.74 lakh people which are there as per 2011 census. And over here the argument is that the population is too small for a full state legislature that could be there. Also, when it comes to the Delhi's objection, it is about the strategic border sensitivity, because it connects the border, it connects to the Tibet region, that is with China, where we have the LAC or the line of actual control. And also the border connects with the Pakistan as well, where we have line of control, as well as the the line where we have the troops which are placed in the Siachen region, that is AGPL line. Now over here the Delhi argues that the centralized control is essential for the rapid defense preparedness and the decisions that could be taken in the event of any of the adverse scenarios. Also, there is another objection, that is of the fiscal dependence, and it says that nearly 95% of the revenue is from the central grants in the Ladakh. And Delhi argues that a full state legislature is financially, it is unviable, and that is why it is not feasible to give the statehood to Ladakh. Now over here, it is very important that when it comes to the flaws, so there are certain flaws in Delhi's argument, that is because when it comes to the northeast, when you compare the complete region with the northeast, so we have Nagaland, which was provided the statehood in 1963, and population is barely 3.5 lakh when the statehood was granted. At the same time, when it comes to Arunachal Pradesh also shares a strategic border with the with the China, and that is Tibet. So it shares that sensitive disputed border with China. It is also vast as compared to the Ladakh. And also when it comes to the population, it is also sparsely population, fiscally dependent again on the center. Yet it had been granted full statehood in 1987. So this is again very, very important, because when it comes to the enfranchised citizens, we have seen that they defend their own borders more fiercely as compared to the disenfranchised citizens, because ultimately being enfranchised and being able to elect their own government, that gives the sense of belonging to the people. Also, there is also another paradox, that is about the resource. When it comes to the resource, the fiscal solvency is not the price of the admission to the Indian democracy that the government it should realize. When it comes to UP and Bihar, the Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, they draw massive central devolution when it comes to the fiscal devolution. At the same time, there is no statehood that had been questioned on the basis of the fiscal devolution that had been given to Uttar Pradesh or Bihar. Also, when it comes to Ladakh, so there is Changthang, where there is the possibility of the 13 gigawatt renewable project that is there. And there is, or this project is viable with 50,000 crore rupees of the investment. And also there is the potential of 7,000 crore that could be the annual revenue from here. So if Ladakh's land is rich enough for the national clean energy, then why are its people are called economically negligible when it comes to the statehood that could be granted to Ladakh? And that is a question that we must ask as a future administrator. Now, when it comes to the Changthang, it is very important to note that the wind and the solar capacity over here is of the tune of 13 gigawatt. And ultimately 50,000 crore is the estimated investment, and it will be one of the India's largest renewable energy projects that will be there in India. And over here, there are 90% of the tribal population that lives. We have the Changpa nomads, and ultimately their Pashmina goat that depends upon the pasture lands which are present in this particular region in Changthang. Now, when it comes to the decision about protecting the lives or the livelihoods of these tribes, who will be responsible? Now, this is again a question that is to be asked, and ultimately without the elected legislature, without the elected assembly in the in Ladakh, who will negotiate the compensation for these tribes when they will be impacted by the projects that will be implemented into the region? Alright, who will decide about their grazing right? Who will decide about their water usage and the environmental safeguards for these Changpa tribes or the other tribes which are living here? So it is very important that there should be an elected representatives which should be there in the place, so that they can they can raise the voice for their own people, and that is what the demand of Ladakh is right now. Now, it is very important that we have seen, because of this demand, there had been community response, and there had been historic Leh-Kargil unity, where we have seen that the Buddhist majority, Leh apex body, and as well as the Muslim majority Kargil Democratic Alliance, they have converged together for the demand of the Ladakh. And they are right now, they are negotiating with the Union Home Ministry officials which are there at the center. Also, when it comes to, there was 21 days hunger strike in the sub-zero temperature that was called by Sonam Wangchuk, and there was the border march that was organized, and that was majorly to highlight the loss to the pasture lands into the region. There had been Gandhian non-violent resistance, and that have captured the national attention when it comes to this, the hunger strike that was mobilized by Sonam Wangchuk. Also, there had been the clashes. What happened in September 2025? The protests that were there, it had turned violent, and that had resulted into the death of 4 of the people in the police firing, and ultimately that was when the negotiation they have failed and they have stalled afterwards. And now there is the renewal of the talks that are happening right now between the Ministry of Home Affairs officials and the members body, or the representative of Leh Apex body, and also Kargil Democratic Alliance as well. Now, it is very important to note over here that these people, they are not asking to belong to India less by demanding the statehood or by demanding to be included into the 6th schedule, but they are asking to belong more completely by being trusted by their own governance, and that is what they are asking for right now. So that is the complete issue when it comes to the Ladakh, and why is it is still angry with the Delhi, and what are the current reasons or what are the current implications. I hope that everything is clear to you right now. So that would be all in this video. Also, if you are preparing for the Civil Services 2027 or 2028, the batches have just started and you can enroll into the foundation batch for GS, that is resolution batch. Over here, you are getting more than 1,000 of the live hours or the live classes which will be provided to you, as well as there is one peculiar thing about joining the resolution batch, and that is if you qualify the prelims, your fees will be refunded back to you. So for this, for joining the batch, what you can do is you can use the code BRS Live. That will fetch you the maximum discount on the platform of StudyIQ IS. So that would be all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care. Jai Hind. But do not forget to like, share, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such future updates. Thank you and Jai Hind.